Hi everyone, welcome back to Learning Math by Example. Today I'm going to go over the popular subject in algebra, function. In definition, function is a mathematical relationship between a set of number called input and another set of number called output. So basically, function represents a relationship for any input that has a specific output, or you can say it's like a machine that takes the input, processes it, and gives you the output. The way that function is noted is like f of x is equal to y. That means for any input of x, there's an output of y. For example, let's say the relationship between age and height in a baby. That relationship represents a function. So at any certain age, if you want to make a plot and measure the height of the baby at each certain age to follow the baby growth. Let's put the age in month. And then let's say we start with 20 inches in height. Obviously, I just made that up. So here the relationship between the age and the height is a function. At any certain age, there's a certain height for the baby. Another good example would be Google. That wasn't a good. Google Map. Google Map. So Google Map, when we ask Google Map to calculate the time that it will take us to get from a point to another point, it uses a function, and that function is function of distance equal time. So the distance comes from the end point and the start point that we give to Google. And then Google uses that to calculate the mileage that we need to travel, and then uses an average speed to calculate the time of the travel. And again, the relationship between the distance and the time is a function. There is a rule about the function, and that rule says, sorry, I have to do this in here. So the rule of the function says for any input, there is only or exactly one output. What does that mean? So if you, for example, if you have an x and y and then a and b, and you have this relationship, okay, we'll say this is a function. Let's say you have x and y, and a and b, and this is how your relationship looks like. Is this a function? The answer is yes. X and y, they both have the same output, which is a, but still, for any input, there's only one output. Now let's look at this last one. How about this one? This is not a function because for the input x, we have two different value of output. So this does not represent a function. There's also other ways to test for a function, and that's called the vertical line. Basically, you will plot a function and you just run a vertical line on it, and if it crosses the function in more than one point, that says that relationship is not a function. Let's look at graphing some functions. So to graph a function, usually I start with creating a table and, come up with some points. So x and, you can call f of x y. It's very common. So I'll give some values to x, and then I calculate, f of x or y. So f of 0 is going to be 0 plus 2, which is 2. F of negative 1 is minus 1 plus 2, which is 1. Then f of 1 is 1 plus 2, which is 3. So if we wanted to plot the function, 0 and 2, negative 1 and 1, 1 and 3. So basically it's a line that, passes through these 3 points. And if I want to test for this to, figure out if it's a function, I just run a vertical line test, and anywhere I put a vertical line, it will only cross the function in 1 point. So that tells me that yes, it is a function. Another one, we have f of x equal to x squared. Let's make another table, x and y. So I'll give again 0, negative 1, 1, maybe 2 more points, negative 2 and 2. So at 0, our x is also 0, negative 1. Negative 1 to the power of 2 becomes a positive 1. And f of positive 1 also is positive 1. So for both of these, we have 1. For negative 2 and 2, we have negative 2 to the power of 2, which is positive 4. And the same thing for 2. 2 to the power of 2 becomes 4. So we have 4 for both of these. And I wrote everything on here. I won't have a space to do this, so let's take this here. Good. So I have a 0 and 0. I have 1 and 1, negative 1 and 1, 2, and let's say 4 is up here, negative 2, and again 4 up here. So our function will look like that. And if I run the vertical line test again, it's going to only cross the function in 1 point, not more than that. The last thing I want to mention about the functions is the domain and the range. Domain is the set of all values for input, and range is set of all values for the outputs. Inputs. What does that mean? So basically, what can be used for the x, or what are everything that y can be. So for the function of f of x equal to x plus 2, what is the domain? What can we put for x? The answer is anything, or all real numbers, right? Or you can show negative infinity to infinity. How about the range of the function? What can y be? Since you can give anything to x, y can also be, anything or everything. So that's also negative infinity to infinity. Let's look at the second one. For the domain here, we can, square any number. So for our domain, we can have negative infinity to infinity. But if you've noticed for the range, no matter if you score a negative number or a positive number, you'll get a positive number. So our range cannot be negative. So we have a 0 to infinity for our range. And the bracket means 0 is part of the range, it's included. If something is not included, we always use parentheses. Hope you guys learned about the functions. I'm going to put more videos on more complicated examples. But this is for today. Thank you so much.